The Sonoma Plaza is a national landmark with 134 local buildings identified as important reminders of our history. My name is Kelso Barnett. I was born and raised here, and we would like to share with you some history of our town and some of the stories of the people who lived here.
Well, come on in. I'm Ned Forrest. Welcome to the Ray Adobe. This house was built in 1847. This was actually the original part of the house, which John and Harriet Ray built themselves. They came over about the time of the Donner Party. They had a baby in Nevada on the way here, and they built this wooden part right when they came. They had a lot that was about 3 lots that way and 3 lots that way. Basically a quarter of the block they purchased from Vallejo. Right after they built this, there was the gold rush. He immediately went to the gold fields. He boarded up the house and went up there. And then one day, Louis Adler was walking by and the door was open and he came inside and there was the whole family of 5 sitting on the dirt floor with pickle jars full of gold dust. Adler said, "Oh, did you get all that stuff? Did you dig all that stuff up?" Ray said, "Yep." And he wouldn't tell them where. It was kind of like, finding mushrooms or something. So then later, Ray was in Adler's store and he had like 7 milk cans full of gold dust and said, "Wow, did you dig all that up?" And he said, "Nope." So the story's told 100 different ways that the merchants made all the money. They were selling all this stuff to all the people who were doing all this. So there was a kind of inverted relationship where they had the gold dust and Ray wondered when he went in there to buy his eggs or something for $12. That's where it all went. Because he got all this gold dust, then he decided he was going to build an adobe portion. Adobe was the preferred method of construction if you had somebody else doing it. And they immediately divided the house into sections because there was actually a great housing shortage. There were 100,000 people where there were once 8,000. So they divided this up into little apartments that they could lease to the Army. This was actually leased by the Occupation Army for the use of officers' barracks. And this part back here was a porch just like the outside porch that you came in. You see the sliced trees that make the stripping for the roofing. And the Army, they enclosed this whole porch. It was basically a banquet hall that went from one end to the other. As adobes get remodeled, oftentimes it's easier to remodel the wooden portions. So in the 40s and in the 20s, it became bathroom, kitchen, bathroom. That's where you put them out on the porch and then they enclose it. When we did our retrofitting here, there are white columns under the wall and I tried to talk my wife into opening it up again, but she didn't want to do that. This entire addition is just another funny story, but it was put in the 40s. It was Polly Black who did the restoration of this house. It was kind of an apartment building in the 30s, but not very well kept up. The railroad used to go by in the 1880s, of course, and so all of these properties kind of declined. But she put a studio back there for printmaking because she was a lithographer. So this was the plan that Polly Black did in the 40s. This is what the house looked like the day she bought it. It's really kind of, I guess you'd call this low-income housing. So we come upstairs. This was the important room up here. There were a lot of women who moved up here during the war because they thought the Japanese were going to invade the Bay Area and they brought their kids up here, and a lot of them had an interest in the adobes, which our locals didn't seem to think much of, but people from out of town had a very romantic sense of them. In any case, this room, which is now a guest room, is the upper floor up above the current living room, and this was actually the first Masonic lodge in Sonoma in 1851, and it was really formed by the officers who were already in this house. So this was a meeting room. So that's kind of the historic parts of the house. We've tried to keep it somewhat like it was. There's a note from John Ray to Adler giving him 100 pieces of gold for a mare, the same Adler that he sold this house to, which he called the Hotel California. That's what he called it there. The deed has an interesting thing about Harriet Ray because she kind of lost the house to Adler, and I think there were some promises made on the wagon train that were broken. Polly Black put this in, and this is a feature in a lot of adobes in Sonoma and really all over the world. They call them truth windows, and a lot of these ladies wanted to show the adobe. I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence about how this might be holding up in an earthquake. And they just continue to be something I'm kind of fascinated with. There's a great picture of the place in 1910 that I wish I had, where all the stucco's off and you can see all the adobe. So All this plaster on the outside was done in the 20s. I guess that's all there is to say about the house. Many people think it's haunted. I think it just has a great spirit. A lot has happened here. People aren't really used to buildings that have a kind of a character, and so they associate it with some kind of spirits. But I've looked for the ghost almost every night. I've lived here 25 years and I've never seen it.